There's some days when you open up the internet and you just sit there and you ask yourself, why? Why does this continue to be a problem? Well, we've got more news coming out of Feminine Frequencies, Anita Sarkeesian, telling us more of how we're doing things the wrong way online. From Sarkeesian, your diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are making your culture worse. Well, yeah, of course, it's making everyone look like a complete and total
dumbass.
You don't say that everyone's standing behind this giant tower shield and will sit there and scream from the rooftops if you criticize anything, that you're doing it because you don't want to progress, because you're not a very diverse person. They call you racist. They say that you're not putting people on a pedestal. And that is what the companies are doing. Well, Sarkeesian here turns and points it out. Diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are framed as attempts to transform workplace environments into a space that is welcoming for all people, especially those historically underrepresented, Sarkeesian said. I'm not here to tell you that DEI is broken. I'm here to tell you that DEI is working as intended, and that's the problem. It's working as intended, and now it's a problem. Geez, I wonder why that is. Did it go too far? Did the pendulum swing up there and smoke her in the face, and suddenly she had an awakening? No, it didn't, because this is just one of those takes where you just don't have that self-reflection on top of it. It seems like DEI has been co-opted or created by the powerful to become a shield against criticism and real change, Sarkeesian said. A DEI manager I admire told me DEI is often a panacea. It is a corporate embodiment of a watered-down libertarian movement. It is an attempt to produce equity in a system that is fundamentally inequitable and resists equity. And that everyone wants equality. Everyone wants equality. Everyone wants the chance to grow. And if you're placing one person above the other based on their looks, it's discriminatory. That's the plain and simple. We up here in Canada, we have the Charter of Freedoms. Down in the States, you guys have your amendments, and all of them they come down to basing everything on equality, not putting one person above the other, not putting one person on a pedestal over the other. That so yeah, your diversity quotas are failing because now companies are using it to sit there and put up a shield and say you're racist when you criticize things that are out there on the market. It's funny because this all came down from a issue with Gamergate and glass ceilings and all these other things. And yet, when women were prevalent in the gaming space, namely Samus above me, no one cared. Samus has been around for so long in the gaming world. Metroid in itself is an amazing game and one of the most strong women in the game industry when it came to that type of representation. But that doesn't matter. There needs to be more. Everything needs to be that way. Look at the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. It completely fell flat on its face because they went down this route to push these agenda-driven politics, and then they sit there and they scream from the rooftops, "Why aren't you liking this? This is what you wanted, isn't it? If you didn't want this, then you're racist or you're sexist or you're a bigot." No, people want to enjoy a show and not have these things shoved in their face. That's why it's completely lost touch. That's why it's completely gone. So Sarkeesian specified that she doesn't feel that people who work in DEI work are failing or that they're working towards an unworthy goal. Instead, she said they are working within corporation or corporate structures designed to be resistant to change, often with HR departments and executives that don't understand how systems of oppression impact all levels of decision making and personal interactions, all backed by legal teams that resist open and honest communications because of legal liabilities or even the risk of employees unionizing. It's funny because the risk of unionization used to be the push for these types of changes, right? They brought, there's things that unions have done in the past that have brought along a lot of good things, namely holidays and weekends. There's pros and cons on both sides of the coin. I'm not going to get into that here. The cynical take on the DEI work is a hamster wheel that executives can throw all the troublemakers who keep on nagging about the change. It keeps the agitators running in circles until they burn themselves out, but rarely actually provokes leaders into handing over the keys to effective, meaningful institutional change. Well, this is a little on the nose, is it not? Is that not what we've seen with Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast? They keep throwing the players a small bone, and they just sit there. They spin people up into a tizzy, and then it just dies out. It doesn't actually lead to change because it continues on down the path, and they keep doing the same things over and over again, hitting themselves against a wall. This article goes on to say, to that end, Sarkeesian offered 4 principles. One is harm does not happen in a vacuum. Sarkeesian said that it's not enough to find and punish the guilty parties who commit harm. Instead, companies need to examine the conditions that allowed the harm to happen in the first place. We have this in my work. It's called lessons learned. When an incident happens and a person gets hurt, they usually take a look at it to find what they can do better to not have that incident happen, to not have someone actually get harmed in the workplace, actually physically harmed, getting cut or your broken limb or something like that. Not hurting your feelings. That's besides the point. We need to break the cycle of harm that prevents future violence. It's not enough to respond to harm that already happened. We need to keep it from happening again. Once again, this is the same principle we see in the safety culture in the trades. Once again, you're taking an overhead look, taking an incident and working your way through it to find a new way of doing it or a better way and making it better for the next person so they don't get hurt. We must support the people who were harmed in their healing and the people who caused harm in their accountability. Those that were harmed need to care and opportunities for peace and post-traumatic growth, but the people who caused the harm also need better ways to reflect on and understand their own behavior. So are you talking about giving people time off, time away if say someone cut a live wire that's running equipment that needed to be shut down properly? Are you're asking for accountability, for blame to be continued on the worker and not so much on the corporation that pushed along the safety the wrong way. This is almost parallel what I see for safety side of things in my line of work, fantasy versus reality. The reality of the matter is people can actually get killed and hurt in my line of work, but the fantasy side of it is it doesn't have anything to do with the person's skin color. This is about all of us. The current system are failing us, and to break out of those cycles, we seriously need to skill up ourselves up, Sarkeesian said. Create stronger ways of being connected to each other, healthier relationships and de-escalation skills, communication skills, expressing feelings in non-destructive ways, and put the work in to unlearning toxic behaviors and beliefs. Every little decision you make, every case you handle, you've got to look at through all of these lenses. Okay, so there is a certain thing that we do at our work. There are cards that get filled out if you do something. Say you picked up some trash and you put it in the card. You fill out this card and you fill it out, and a lot of times it just gets put aside, and they go, "Yay, we pat ourselves on the back because we did this safety thing and we did it correctly. We did it right." This is kind of on the same line of that, trying to get people just to go through the motions of always picking up after another person's downfalls based on their discriminatory functions. It doesn't work like that, Sarkeesian. It doesn't push forward like that. It's a bad way. to do things. Changing the way people think about each other and make them more racist in the long run, even though everyone put all of that aside a long time ago. Everyone looks at everyone as a capable human being that can pick up a knife and strip a cable. Now, there are people that will sit there and cut it towards themselves, and there will people that sit there and cut it away from themselves. There are two ways to cut it. Only one way is probably the right way, because the second you're bringing that knife towards you, you're going to, at some point in your life, you're going to hit yourself. Now, this article, there is some points here because it's Anita. You got to give it a little bit, right? No. Now, this article, Anita Sarkeensain, just does not seem to have the self-reflection or to look herself in the mirror. She just wants the sunlight, and she just wants to stand in the sun and have her day in the sun and make sure she gets all that money tossed at her, because she's changing everyone's attitude when it comes to diversity in the workforce. This is not the particular way to go about it. You're saying that people at the top have to trickle down. She's saying that people have to do it more than just go through the actions. Well, we see corporations sit there and just, they piggyback, like we've seen with the NHL lately, National Hockey League. They're piggybacking certain ideologies just to push and market it for more money. And it blows up in their face because they have a lot of people that just say no. And that's the thing that we're seeing here is minorities and LGBTQ people are being used as a marketing ploy and not actually, they're not just naturally being formed in the marketplace when they were at one point. This is creating segregation, it's creating discrimination, and it's just absolutely ridiculous at this point, because if you went through the stuff that Sarkeesian went through, you can tell a lot of the stuff that she did was just the wrong way to do it, all in the sake of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This has been a tough video for me because I've had to do things over and over again here because I've gone on so many tangents here. So please do like, subscribe, do all those fun things. I've been your proud Canadian Phoenix. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you all again next time.